Friends, we gather together this afternoon to celebrate the life, to honor the memory of Lou Freiberg. Lou's family so very much appreciates your presence here with them this afternoon, which offers them a great deal of comfort and support. Adonai ma'adam v'teida'ehu ben enosh v'chashvehu. O Lord, what are we that you have regard for us? What are we that you are mindful of us? We are like a breath, our days are like a passing shadow. We come and we go like grass, which in the morning shoots up renewed, in the evening it fades and it withers. You cause us to turn to dust, saying, return, you mortal creatures. Would that we were wise, that we understood whither we are going. For when we die, we carry nothing away. Our glory does not accompany us. Mark the wholehearted and behold the upright. They shall have peace. The author of the first of the Bible's 150 Psalms describes for us in language that is both poignant and succinct the nature of the good life and the fruits of that life. Happy are those who have not followed the counsel of the wicked, nor taken the path of sinners, nor joined the company of the insolent. Rather, the teaching of God is their delight, and they study that teaching day and night. They are like a tree planted beside streams of water that yields its fruit in its season, whose foliage never fades, and whose fruit always flourishes. Psalm 15. O Lord, who may abide in your house, who may dwell in your holy mountain, those who are upright, who do justly, who speak the truth within their hearts, who do not slander others or wrong them or bring shame upon them, who scorn the lawless but honor those who revere the Lord, who give their word and come what may, do not retract, who do not exploit others, who never take bribes. Those who live in this way shall never be shaken. Let us join together now in the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Kohelet, the author of the book of Ecclesiastes, reminds us that for everything there is a season, a time for every experience under the heavens, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to discard, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak. Lou Freiberg died this past Thursday, just 4 months short of his 95th birthday. He lived a long and a full life. He accomplished a great deal, and he touched the lives of many people. We will miss him. Lou was born and raised in Cleveland. He graduated from John Adams High School and almost immediately went into the Air Force. The year was 1942, and the war was raging in Europe. Lou became a member of the 458 Bomb Group, 2nd Air Division of the 8th Air Force. Now, Lou's service over the next 3 years made an indelible impact on him, and it remained one of the seminal experiences of his life. And that impact had both negative and positive resonances for him. Negatively, Lou was the only Jew in his outfit, and anti-Semitism was always a looming factor. As a consequence, he spent a great deal of his time alone, staying on the base when the others went carousing into the town. Positively, Lou made 4 good friends, and he and those friends remained close for the rest of their lives. During the war, Lou and his friends were stationed in England, and together they were in charge, from the runway itself, of dispatching and then landing thousands of fighter planes. Many of these planes returned to the base safely, but some did not. Many of the soldiers whom Lou sent on missions returned home intact, but many did not. And Lou saw many maimed and mangled and even decapitated bodies during his years there. And he undoubtedly, as a result, suffered post-traumatic stress disorder of greater or lesser severity throughout his life. But along the way, Lou and his buddies decided to memorialize their wartime experience, and they did so by creating a replica of the truck that they had used on the tarmac in England to dispatch and receive home those bombers. That recreation, along with pictures and other memorabilia, are now prominently on display at the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. When Lou returned home from the war, he opened in 1946 one of the 5 hardware stores that he eventually owned, the first one being in the Collinwood area of Cleveland. But Lou, though successful in the business, did not find the hardware store business satisfying. Being in the store every day, he said, was being limited to the 4 walls that surround you day in and day out. Yet Lou continued to focus on his business because he knew that he was responsible for providing for his family. But at the same time, Lou looked for other opportunities, and eventually opportunity came his way, and he was able to complement his work at the hardware stores with a new involvement in the construction business. And so in 1958, Lou joined partners in this additional enterprise, an enterprise that was productive for Lou and for his partners. And as usual with Lou, business relationships often expanded into genuine and even lifelong personal relationships. In fact, this partnership and these friendships lasted more than 60 years and ended only with the death of the partners. But this was not all. Lou was also invited in 1971 to sit on the board of the Euclid National Bank, which we now know as Chase Bank. And he served in this capacity for 28 years. Indeed, Lou Freiberg was a busy and a most productive person. But his involvements extended as well to philanthropy. He was on the boards of the Maltz Museum, the Israel Defense Fund, the Cleveland Jewish Federation, and the Jewish Veterans, just to name a few. Whenever an organization needed funding for one project or another, it could always come to Lou Freiberg and count on him to come through. For example, when Menorah Park wanted to create an event to honor the veterans who resided on the Menorah Park campus, the leadership of Menorah Park came to Lou for help, and he open-heartedly contributed funds sufficient to allow the event to take place. Indeed, Lou was, in the words of his daughters, a total pushover. But he wanted to help, and he wanted to give back to a community that had supported him in so many ways. And Lou's largesse extended to those closest to him, to his family. Lou put his kids through college and gave cars to his grandchildren, along with other acts of generosity. To his employees, Lou was always ready to help his employees in their time of need. If, for example, one of them needed financial help, Lou would readily give that person a loan. Always a loan, Lou said, because you can't teach by giving. But those loans never had a due date, and Lou never called them in. Those loans, in other words, turned out to be gifts. And from all this, we can see that Lou Freiberg had strong values, values which he held fervently. Moreover, he wanted others to embrace those same values as well. And so he would often be found preaching those values to anyone who wanted to listen, and sometimes to those who didn't want to listen. And his character embodied the values that he cherished. He was passionate about the things that mattered to him, and that passion was accompanied by a strong and a purposeful will. He knew what was right, and he knew what was wrong. And he wore his emotions on his sleeve, easily emoting love and disappointment, enthusiasm, as well as those resentments that he had difficulty letting go of. Indeed, you always knew where you stood with Lou. And to the people he loved and the causes in which he deeply believed, Lou was steadfastly loyal. He was a good friend, and he devoted himself to what it took to cultivate and to sustain his friendships. He was in sum what one of his son-in-laws called a good guy. Lou Freiberg is survived by his daughters, Lisa and Jane, by his sons-in-law, Dale and Randy, by his grandchildren, Jonathan and Danielle, Lauren and Jeff, Shauna and Michael, by his great-grandchildren, Jordan, Braden, whom Lou sometimes called Butch, and Charlie, Alexis, and Taylor, by his sister-in-law, Sylvia, and by many nieces, nephews, and cousins. He was predeceased by his wife of 50-plus years, Eleanor, by his sisters, Gertrude and Florence, and by his brothers-in-law, Ben and Aaron. Lou Freiberg led a long and a remarkably varied life. He experienced many adventures. He worked successfully in several vocations. He loved his family and his friends, and he contributed his time and his treasure to his community. Those who loved and admired and respected him will never forget him. Zichrono livracha. The memory of Lou Freiberg will always be our blessing. Amen. I now want to call on first Lou's daughter, Jane, who will reflect on the life, the qualities, and the accomplishments of her father.
Well, Lou loved his speech, so here I go. Lou was a colorful, outspoken, dynamic man. He had opinions and passions and was secure in them. He shared his thoughts freely and often. He said, "I wrote the book," and he lived his life to the edicts of that book. He attempted to convince others to follow his rules too, but if you had opposing viewpoints, He listened. That was okay. He had an open mind, and often his rules of life evolved, as he was a very modern thinker. He revered education even though he was a self-described failure as a student. He encouraged and supported the highest education for my mother, his daughters, and grandchildren. Lou was actually a feminist, but would never admit that. He raised his daughters to be independent career women, and we know with strong opinions. Lou always showed tremendous ambition and grit, and was a great example to Lisa and me, to Shauna, to Lauren, and to Jonathan. He led by example and earned the respect he received from his friends and family. My dad was very proud of his accomplishments and those of his family, and he didn't hesitate to talk about these with others and to remind us of his successes. Now, that could have been very annoying, but from Lou, it was endearing because he was so excited in his telling, and it meant so much to him. I am grateful for those accomplishments. He has left a legacy I am proud of. My dad, if you knew him, had strong political views, and he was not politically correct. We love that about him. He said what he meant, and he meant what he said. My dad loved to tell a story, often, and again, and again, and again. I'm sure many here can recite them back to me, and I would love to hear them from you. We loved that about him. He was never at a loss for conversation, always sharing from the heart. Lou was vain, if you didn't know that. You couldn't tell in his choice of clothes, shoes, or jewelry, but you could in his grooming, especially his hair. He loved it when my mother dressed up and when his girls and grandkids looked their best. We loved that about him, as this made us want to dress up and made our family events feel extra special. My dad always had time for us, gave the best pep talks, showed generosity beyond limits, told terrible jokes, had a positive energy filled with love and emotion. He made everyone around him feel welcome, included, and important. Lou, above all, loved his family, especially his grandkids. He would do anything for any one of us, at any time, at any cost. This he has taught Lisa and me, and we will carry on as he would.
And I want to call on Lou's grandson, Jonathan.
I don't really want to be here at all. As part of my career, I speak professionally to audiences of thousands of people all over the world. And I don't know what to do right now. I don't know what to say. I never wanted to do this for the obvious reasons of what it meant. And I honestly don't know what words I could ever say to properly describe this man and what he meant to all of us. He was a father, a brother, an uncle, a grandfather, a great-grandfather, a friend, a colleague. And to me, he was my best friend. So I don't really know what to say. But I also realize I don't really have to. You all know who he was, and you all know what he meant to you, and that's why you're all here. So I thought that instead, I'd talk a little bit, if I could, about the impact that he's had on my and our lives. I thought about a lot of stories, and there are so many stories. I could literally be here for days. I thought I'd share some of his war stories, But Jane, you're right. You've all heard them hundreds of times. Thought I'd tell some of his jokes. You're right again. You've all heard those thousands of times. And to be honest, my kids are here. And they are all inappropriate. So I thought a lot, and I've unfortunately had this opportunity to think about what I would say in this moment for some time now, and why I haven't nailed it down. I have a lot of stories that rattle around in my head, and there's one that keeps coming up, and I don't know why. This is not a story that I've thought about until right now. But in some way, I think it does a good job of describing what he meant to me and how he made me who I am. It's a story about checkers, the game checkers. You heard already that my grandfather was a very busy man. He was always at the store, or in one of his other businesses, or at the gym, or running a marathon, or traveling the world. Not because he wanted to, but because Grandma made him. But when he did spend time with me, he spent time with me. And one of the things that we always did was play checkers. He taught me how to play checkers, and we would always sit in the same place, just off the living room, overlooking the backyard, with his drinky in his hand. And for some reason, I always had to be the red checkers. I don't know why. And when I was little, he would teach me, but he taught me in a different way. Most people with a child, if I was to make a mistake, would say, hey, if you do that, I can double jump you here. Instead, he would wait for me to make the mistake, double jump me, and then explain to me the mistake. The man did not like to lose, but he wanted me to earn it. So one day, I was playing, I don't know how old I was, 7, 8, 9 years old, and the amazing happened. I won. And I don't know what the reaction I was expecting was. I didn't get it. I don't know if I was expecting fireworks or confetti to fall from the ceiling. He just said, nice game, let's play again. All right, we did. Wouldn't you know it, I won again. And again, he had no real reaction. He just said, good game, clean up and wash up for dinner. I walked away. I did think maybe he let me win for a minute, but that's not who this man was. So I cleaned up. I was carrying the checkerboard and the pieces back to the den where it belonged, and I had to walk past the kitchen. And just before I got to the entryway to the kitchen, both my grandparents were in there, and I heard my grandmother say, Lou, how was the game? And I stopped. They couldn't see me standing there. I was just outside. There was a long pause. And I heard him say, Eleanor, that goddamn kid beat me twice. And it was the proudest moment of my life, and I haven't thought about it till right now. And the reason is he was proud of me. He wasn't mad. And he was proud of me that I had earned it. He didn't give it to me. And I realized my whole life has been about making that man proud and showing him what I had earned and achieved. From the time I was very little, it's been told to me, I don't know if I believe this, but I didn't enjoy walking very much. It's not that I couldn't walk. I could walk just fine. I guess I just figured, why walk when you could be carried? And to be honest, if it was socially acceptable, I'd probably still adopt that policy. Except for around my grandfather. We'd be going to the store. I would demand to be put down. I could not let him see me be carried or given or handed anything. Sports, it meant the world to me if I cracked the starting lineup and he could be there. I didn't really care about walking for graduation or getting the diploma, but I did want him to see me in that gown. At work, every raise or promotion I've ever gotten, he was my first call. Not just mine. When my wife achieves, he's my first call. When my kids achieve, he was my first call. So I've had some time to think over the past couple days and weeks. Did I do it? Did I make him proud? And it really wasn't until we got here. And I look at all them, and I see his daughters, Dad, Randy, his grandkids, Shauna, Lauren, Michael, Jeff, and of course Danielle. He was so happy I married you. Most importantly, our kids. Taylor, soon to be baby Cone, sweet Lexi and Charlie, and mine, Jordan, Butch. And I can honestly say, with 100% conviction, We have made this man proud. But I also realize we're not done. And the best way to truly honor Papa is to take those lessons that we've learned, those lectures as he called them, even the wild and crazy ones, and pass them down to our children so that they can learn and get the same impact and influence that we were so lucky to have in our lives. The world and our community and our family lost an absolute titan this week. And I guess what I want to say, Papa, is thank you for everything you've given all of us. And for showing me the man that I want to be. So on behalf of your grandchildren, I promise that we will continue to deliver the lessons you've given to us, to ours. And I promise to make you proud. Papa, we love you. I'm going to miss you forever.
O God of life, amid the ceaseless tides of change which sweep away the generations, your love remains to comfort us and to give us hope. Around us are life and death, decay and renewal, the flowing rhythm that all things obey. Our life is a dance to a song that we cannot hear. Its melody courses through us for a little while, then it seems to cease. Whence the melody and whither does it go? In darkness as in light, we turn to you, the source of life and the answer to all of life's mysteries. Will you please rise now for the El Malei Rachamim? El Malei Rachamim shochein bamromim, hamtzei menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashchina, im kadoshim utahorim kazohar harakia mazhirim, et nishmat yakirenu shahalach la'olamo. Bala rachamim yastireo b'sefer kanafav la'olamim, v'yitzror b'tzra hachayim et nishmato. Adonai hu nachalato v'yanuach b'shalom al mishkavo v'nomar amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Lou Freiberg, our loved one who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in the shadow of your wings, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace, and let us say together, Amen. Will you please be seated? I want to announce that the family of Lou Freiberg will receive friends at the Beachmont Country Club today after our interment service and until 7:30 this evening. They will also receive friends tomorrow, Monday, at Point East, 27500 Cedar Road. They'll receive friends tomorrow from 2 to 4 and 7 to 9 in apartment 308. Today at the Beachmont Country Club, tomorrow at Point East. Once again, on behalf of the family, we so much appreciate your presence here with us this afternoon.